it doesn't have to be. I mean, it casts like this massive net across every aspect of your life, but it doesn't have to be a disaster. And there are so many things that you can do to mitigate the suffering. And especially for your kids who are just like sitting there like these innocent bystanders on the sidelines. So that's my long-winded way of just saying that, like, we basically wrote the program and became the coaches that we wish we had access to.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. Today I have on the show Bill, Miles, and Kristen Noel, and they are divorce coaches. They are husband and wife, and they help mothers take control of their divorce to get off the emotional roller coaster and save precious time and money and heartache for their family. And today, that's really what we're talking about. This isn't so much, I don't want you to look at this conversation as this is only going to, you're only going to get something out of this conversation if you're going through a divorce, because it's so much more than that. Well, yes, it is a really helpful conversation if you are going through a divorce or contemplating it. And I wanted to bring them on really because I love what they're doing to help women. And I wish that's something I would have found something or someone like them when I was going through my own. It's just a lot to navigate. And especially, I wasn't a mother when I was going through divorce, but I know I can imagine the pain and how much more heartache and pain there is when there are children involved. So I love the perspective that they're bringing, and really to help mothers and women going through divorce and how to handle high conflict relationships. And they even talk about the common mistakes that women make and kind of what's at stake for women and for kids and how to protect them and how to really see the opportunity within the mess. And that's the beauty that I want you to get out of this conversation. Even if this doesn't resonate with you, if you have never been through a divorce, you're not going through divorce, you're not planning on going through divorce, nobody plans to go through divorce, but you know what I'm saying. But for you to really see the opportunity within the mess, and really it's about communication, and it's about how to mediate conflict as much as possible, and how to nurture yourself and how to show up as your best self in a relationship, whether it's around divorce or not. So this really is a powerful conversation. I just love what Bill and Kristen are doing for women. And I encourage you, if you know a woman in your life that's going through divorce or they're contemplating divorce, that you send them this episode, because I find this would have been so helpful for me. And I know so many friends that I know who've been through divorce that have kids. This would be such a helpful conversation for them. So share this with a friend and learn some takeaways on just how to deal with conflict and better your relationship. Let's jump in.
All right, y'all, let's jump in. I'm here with Bill and Kristen, and I told them before we start recording, this is so fun having more than one person to talk to on the screen. So I'm excited to have this conversation with them. Thank y'all so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yes, yeah. I'm excited to have y'all. So y'all are divorce coaches and really helping people helping mothers really take control during their divorce. And I really love that y'all reached out, because I love this conversation coming from someone who's been through divorce. I know, like you mentioned this when we were messaging, I would have loved to have some sort of support when I was going through it. So I love that y'all are providing this for women, and it's for mothers. And luckily, I say luckily, because I know that's like a whole other complicated thing. I was not a mother at the time. We didn't have kids. And so I know that's like a whole other complicated layer on top of already, going through a divorce, which is tough. So can y'all, whoever wants to go first, can y'all explain just kind of what brought you into this and kind of your own journey to get to being the experts you are in this realm?
Our own messes.
Simply put, hey, that's always.
There you go. You nailed it by saying like you wish you had some kind of guidance or just more information. That's exactly what speaks to both of us. I went through my divorce 20 years ago. So there was literally, we were just in a different world.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no social media. There were no digital programs. There were really no, what was a life coach? Nobody knew life coaches, let alone divorce coaches.
Totally.
So it's really I think it's actually a beautiful way of looking at life. Like if you can actually embrace the adversity of your life to say not at the moment when I'm in it, but I'm going to make some meaning out of this mess. And I think, we've had kind of a long journey to here, but essentially our program was built out of just, this need for there to be this kind of support for mothers going through this incredible upheaval in their lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, I mean, it casts like this massive net across every aspect of your life, but it doesn't have to be a disaster.
Right.
And there are so many things that you can do to mitigate the suffering. And especially for your kids who are just like sitting there like these innocent bystanders on the sidelines. And so that's my long-winded way of just saying that, like, we basically wrote the program and became the coaches that we wish we had.
You wish you had.
To.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it took us some time, some distance, to develop the perspective, partly because like our children, when we were going through divorce, we have between us 4 children, 1 from her previous marriage, 3 from mine, but they were all young at the time. And now they're all adults in their 20s, and they're still grappling with the impact of, the repercussions of the divorce experience on them. All different, they're dealing with it in different ways, but we've really seen how it impacts them in different ways, whether it's their relationships, their self-esteem, their ambition, all kinds of things. So that's another reason we wanted to, now that it's becoming very clear what mistakes people make that we can help them avoid, that you can't necessarily see when you're in the weeds, and how to navigate those waters. So
yeah. So speaking of mistakes, what do you see? And I'm sure, like you said, Kristen, this is kind of you learned from your mess. What do you see as the most common mistakes that people may not see, when they're in the thick of the mess?
Well, there's a few things. I would say the main thing is that people can't get out of their own way and keep their kids out of the conflict. That's a huge one. And then I also think there's just this notion of being ruled by our emotions and making sort of knee-jerk reactions or decisions. Listen, whether you're the one that initiated the divorce or something, a bomb exploded and you just woke up one day and your husband came home and said, like, hey, I'm having an affair, I'm in love with someone else, whatever the circumstances are. There's a lot of, your entire life gets stirred up. Your emotional pot gets stirred up. So there's grief and there's heartbreak and there's fear and there's anxiety and vulnerability, the whole gamut. But there really are ways to navigate that, not bypass it, navigate it, but not be ruled by it, so that you're not making decisions for the wrong reasons, or you're not acting out of revenge, or you're not, hurting your kids in the process and hurting yourself. So I would honestly say probably the 2 biggest mistakes are just not being in control or not seeing how to control your emotions. And again, there's a difference between bypassing and shoving them away and pretending everything's okay, and just learning how to deal and process and move through this, and how to protect your kids and keep them out of the conflict. So I think those would be my top 2. I don't know if Bill, if you have anything to add to that, but
those certainly are, probably the top. Additionally, though, in our coaching, we also help, and the fathers certainly need support too. We just had to start in a lane somewhere and we decided to start with women. No disrespect to men. We probably will bring them
they have
fold,
emotions too.
Of course. But self-care is an important thing too, because there is a lot of, certainly we know, emotional stress that you're going through with divorce, and it impacts you physically. Some of the women that we work with are physically ill as a result of stress or lack of sleep and so forth. Yet they don't see the value in tending to themselves or honoring what they need, because they're too busy on a hamster wheel, taking care of the kids, having divorce negotiations, everything else. They feel like, and their work, because often we're working with professional women, that they can't carve out time, that it's too selfish to do that. And
or they think like, I'll get to it later.
Yep.
I'll get to it later.
They need to go through it now.
Yep.
If you're staying up at night, worrying and stressed, and you're frazzled the next day, you can't be on your A game for your kids.
Totally.
Or your job, or your legal negotiations, or any of it. So we try and promote the idea that you actually can feel good and actually can thrive, even through the throes of divorce.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a good point, and kind of like what you were saying, Kristen, rather than bypass it, like, meet it head on. And that's, I think in any situation that can be hard and because like you were talking about the feelings, right? When you're dealing with grief or whatever, like dealing with those emotions, like in the moment, and not like, oh, I'll deal with it later. Cause that's just like a whole other set of problems that it causes. So do you have any like strategies or how you help your clients do that? Because that's, I think that's like, as humans, we want to feel safe. And that's our first instinct. It's like, oh, that's, those feelings, those emotions aren't safe. Like, I don't want to feel those right now, but it's important to be able to like work through them. So I guess what advice do you have for women in that piece? And like, let's meet them head on and let's work through them rather than bypass.
First of all, for a lot of women, I think it's such a relief to be given permission to feel what you feel. I mean, for most of us, it's like we've been raised to sort of package ourselves a certain way, to present as a certain way, to keep it all together as our needs, wants, desires, and voices, fall to the bottom of the laundry basket. We've got to make, peace in the house or whatever. So I think first and foremost, I think most women really feel such tremendous relief to just actually express their truth, the truth of what they're feeling. And it doesn't have to be that deep. It's literally identifying, like, sit with the sadness, sit with the grief, sit with the anger. We just came out of we have a group program. We just came out of a really powerful class. And, we were really just talking through this today. And honestly, so much healing comes from just revealing what is true to you, to stop denying your voice, to stop having to shove it someplace else, to stop pretending that you feel something or you are something that you're not. It doesn't make you
not
a
judging
flawed
yourself.
person.
Yeah,
right. Not judging yourself, not shaming yourself. You're not flawed because you have feelings. You are human. And so when you create this container where women come together and they just kind of, it's like sacred space. They just hold space for each other. It's like being with your best girlfriend and you're sitting there and you're just really telling the truth. When you let that out or you have a good cry, there's like a big relief that comes with that. Holding it in only hurts you and it just festers and it becomes bigger and it just takes, then there's just more distance between you and your healing.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that too, of being able to hold space for joy. I think that's the big thing too. And like you were saying, Bill, without judgment, because I think that's the other piece is, especially when you have kids. And again, like I didn't have kids during mine, so I don't have this to relate to, but having kids now, I can imagine like the judgment you feel for yourself just for the whole situation. And then being like, well, I can't feel sad. Like I have to be strong for my kids and I have to do this, be this for my kids, and being able to feel the things and not judge yourself for it. I'm sure it's just, that's a whole other thing to tackle.
We have a client who said, after we finished working with her, she said, this divorce process is a spiritual journey. And people think that this is all about the divorce and the dissolution of a marriage, but it's so much more. It's actually about reclaiming pieces and parts of yourself. It's really allowing yourself to become who you want to be, are meant to be, desire to be. And also, listen, it's about life today and beyond. But going back to the kids, something else is, it is so complicated when you have kids because we sort of have a knee-jerk reaction when we're dividing, right? It's like, okay, pick a team. Like, are you on team mom? Are you on team dad? And we work with a lot of attorneys and mediators. And there actually is something called the Bill of Rights for Children, which obviously it's not legally binding, but is a set of tenets which, just provide some guidance for parents to say, like, do these things, don't do these things. Allow them to have their feelings. Don't make them pick a team. Keep them out of the conflict. Keep them out of the discussions. But it's also this opportunity for really deepening relationships because guess what? You are a mom and you are going through divorce and you are juggling now more than you probably ever have. And that can be scary and that can be frustrating. And you are going to lose your what some days, And when you do, okay, so what? Big deal. Now, you know what you do? You just turn to your kid and say, it's now an opportunity for a deeper conversation and to teach your kids accountability, to teach your kids how to apologize, teach your kids how to feel. And you just turn and say like, hey, honey, I just want you to know mom's frazzled today. I'm not having a great day, but I want you to know I'm not proud of the way I just handled that situation. I'm going to work harder not to do that. Or, you know what I mean? It just becomes this opportunity. You're acknowledging their feelings. It becomes, this whole process just becomes an opportunity for you to maneuver in the world the way you want to,
Right.
the way you want to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And this, what she just touched on, is an important aspect too. When you asked about what are the mistakes people make,
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to create a safe space for your children, and physically safe, of course, but emotionally safe space. And a lot of mothers think, well, of course, I'm a mom, a loving mom, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually more to it. Sometimes, even with the best intentions, you're not necessarily doing that. And one of the big mistakes people make is trying to influence how their children should feel about something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Children should be allowed to feel what they feel.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean there's an excuse for aberrant behavior or bad behavior. Okay, that's a different thing.
Right.
But to say, oh, you shouldn't feel that, or you shouldn't, if your dad did something awful or whatever that broke the relationship, whatever it is, you don't want to make them feel like they should not love their father, or they should judge their father, or anything like that. They may be how you feel, but it's not okay to tell your children how to feel. They'll draw their own conclusions.
Yep, for sure. That has to be a hard piece, though, because I know just from having friends that have gotten divorced with kids, like that's hard not having, especially, depending on how the marriage ended. And if somebody was unfaithful, whatever, like you want your kid to hate them because you hate them at the time, like that's a hard piece to untangle. But I totally agree. Because I think the other piece is, you were saying creating a safe space to feel, but like teaching your kids, like you were saying, Kristen, teaching your kids to feel. Because I think that's the other piece too, is like, nobody wants to see their kids sad, but you also want your kids to feel what they feel. Like it's okay to feel emotions. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad, or, whatever feelings. I think that's a huge piece, because I know I've felt, I've felt it multiple times in my life. Like you were saying, Kristen, like, you got divorced 20 years ago, and mine wasn't that long ago. It was a decade or so ago. But even then, it's like, I grew up in the South. Like you got to save face and make everything on the outside looks good. And, I got it all together. And that's what I felt I had to do. And so you keep yourself from feeling things, and then you keep your kids from feeling things.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. It is this huge opportunity to, and that doesn't, listen, there's nothing easy about parenting, by the way. I just want to, I just want to throw that into the mix, right? Greatest job in the world, greatest gift in the world, but not always easy. Yes. Right. So let's just get that out. Right. So yes, when you want to, particularly in a contentious divorce, and you want, like, deep down inside, the little voice inside's like, I want them to hate their father. They're, I want them to pick my team.
Yep.
Going back to Bill's points about not directing how they should feel, it's the worst thing you can do for them. Mm. You don't need, we're not kids on a playground. If you want someone to hate him, like, talk to your girlfriend, she'll hate him for you. You know what I mean? Like, keep your kids out of it, because we want to foster healthy emotional selves that can navigate. Like, what we always say is, your kids are watching you. You are mirroring to them and modeling what a relationship is, what love is, what navigating adversity is. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a perfect science. Like, it's actually better if it's imperfect, because if you keep your kids, like, living in a Disney movie, then they're going to go out in the world and they're going to get smacked in the middle of the forehead. They're going to be like, find themselves on their butts with not knowing how to navigate a relationship, or any difficulty in the workplace, or in their own marriage. Mm-hmm. So as parents, we'd love to protect them. We'd love to make every boo-boo go away, stand in front of any, oncoming train, but you can't. Yeah. What you want to do instead is give them the tools to say, like, hey, yep, you're going to hit some adversity. You're going to hit some potholes from time to time, but you got this.
Yeah.
And you got this by feeling what you feel, telling the truth about what it is, being accountable, having someone you can tell the truth to, being honest with yourself. Those are the gifts that emerge. And like I said, you know what? Little messiness never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
When your kids see you being human, then it's okay to be human. Because, like you were saying, growing up where women behave a certain way, and women package themselves a certain way, and women show up in the world in a certain way, then guess what? Someone modeled that for you.
Yep.
And someone modeled that for your mother.
Yep.
And for her, and your grandmother.
This is an opportunity just to break cycles, but you have to be aware. If you just go in, and this is like what Kristen was saying, how we really work with our clients to reframe the experience. And I know it may sound like a stretch, but if you can reframe this dramatic upheaval as actually an opportunity, tough as it is, to re-script your life and your values, and it's really kind of amazing. And it can be a spiritual journey.
Hope, I'd like turn this back on you. And I would say, I suspect that you would say, had I not gotten my divorce 10 years ago, I would not be sitting in this seat, doing this work, being this version of who I am and who I'm really happy to be today.
100%, 100%. I've talked about that multiple times on the podcast. And I think that my divorce was the catalyst for like really discovering who I was. I mean, I was young at the time. I married super young, I divorced young, like it was, and 100%. It was literally the catalyst that sent me on the trajectory I'm on now. Like it wouldn't have happened any other way. And I would have never like learned who I was at the depths of my soul had that not happened. And so I love that you said that at the beginning, that it can be a spiritual, because that's exactly what it was for me. It was totally a spiritual journey that I'm still on, but it never would happen otherwise.
And we also tell people that, because a marriage ends doesn't mean it was a failure.
Right.
There are endings and there are also beginnings. I mean, nobody marries hoping they're going to get divorced.
Exactly.
We've all got the fairy tale embedded in us when we're walking down that aisle in that big white poofy dress, but you don't have to look at it as a failure.
Yeah.
It was just an ending. It was just an ending for whatever reason. And if you can learn to lean in and trust yourself, trust your intuition, open your heart, trust whatever higher power you believe in, that there's more.
Yeah.
That there's more. We're not meant to be unhappy. We're not meant to be in conflict.
Right. I agree with that. And I think for me, that was a huge piece I can't even tell you how many times I've said that about myself or to myself or talking to somebody like, I'm such a failure. I'm such a failure. That was like the big thing for me. Again, growing up in the South and in the Bible Belt, like that was like, the biggest sin ever was getting divorced. And so that was me. I'm like, I feel like a failure. And now everybody's judging me. And now, it's this huge thing and I'm a terrible person. And
until they're asking you who your divorce lawyer is.
Right. Until it happens to them. Yeah, that's a hard piece, and not identifying with that. And like you said, I love how you said that, because it's an ending, but it's also a beginning of something else that you have no idea what the next chapter holds. But being able, it's a huge perspective shift.
It's also a discovery process for yourself, where you really start to realize, and again, this was a conversation today, but it's like where you start to realize, what was it that I was attracted to in that person? Sometimes wounds meet each other. And so you really start, it's not really about when you can stop seeing yourself as a victim, you can really empower yourself by saying, oh, this is really interesting. Let me look at this differently. Why was I attracted to that? What red flags did I ignore and bypass and pretend I didn't see? Why did I stay in this so long? And again, I don't want any person to shame themselves for the past. I just want them to learn from the past. Take the nuggets from the past so that you don't repeat them, so that you can heal those wounds. I mean, they're wounds. It's like, imagine a little 3-year-old child. If you saw a little 3-year-old child on the road crying, would you just walk on by? No, you'd like stop, scoop them up, nurture them, hug them. Are you okay? What can I do for you? This is what we need to do for ourselves. This is exactly what we need to do for ourselves. These are wounds. We can act in anger, or we can act out in pain, depression, grief, sadness, whatever. But there's just a wound underneath there that's calling your attention.
What we find happens is that our clients, when they go through this process with us, move. We use a metaphor of a bridge, but it's like they move from one place of living and they cross a bridge to another place of living. And it feels different energetically. They look at themselves differently. They look at the relationships they want to attract into their life differently. They look at their role as a parent differently, and typically never look back. And again, without judgment, thank you for your service, but this is where I live now. And it's hard for them to see that, right away, but over time, we see that unfold and time again. And it's amazing because it truly shifts their life.
Yeah.
Their life is completely different. They step forward back in their power, with laughter, with the joy that they had as a child, often,
Yeah, it is. It's a whole new version of them. And what do you find are the best ways? Because you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but because Bill, you mentioned self-care, that kind of thing. But what are some ways, because like we're saying, like there's a lot to navigate here. There's emotions and feelings and all kinds of things going on. What are some ways that women can really take care of themselves, like, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, like just ways to take care of them to really show up in a way where they're serving themselves, their kids, the whole situation? Like, are there things that you work with your clients on and how they can really take care of themselves?
Yes. They're kind of like 5 pillars, and I won't go into depth on all of them, but I'll give a high level,
perfect.
That we kind of bring them through. The first is just getting clear on what you want. And we take them through a process, what we call crafting a divorce declaration. And this is important because so many women have never done this. They've never actually taken time to assess, what do I really want? What are my goals through this divorce? What are my goals beyond it? What are my goals for my relationship with my soon-to-be ex in terms of co-parenting and all this? So we help them craft this document so that they've got kind of a roadmap, right? And then the second step is to, and we touched on this, self-care, to honor their own needs. And if you already practice self-care, maybe what you really need is a break. Maybe you need to read a book, you know what I'm saying? But just to get in touch with what is going to nurture you.
Yep.
So that you can be your best self. The third is to tap into your intuitive powers, really. And that sounds woo-woo, but our program's called the Best Self Intuitive Divorce Program because the answers really are within you. What we're doing is guiding you to find your own answers.
Yep.
Especially when you may have grown accustomed to being squashed into a box and playing small and suppressing your inner voice for years, decades in some cases.
To trust. Right? That's the main word. To trust.
Trust is
voice.
it. And there are techniques that we, it sounds like, well, that sounds good, but there are techniques that we help them actually do that.
Tune into that.
It's a tactical thing to tap into their intuition. Then we challenge them to become the CEO of their divorce. And that's kind of something that's an easy thing for us to put a name on, because what it really means is, okay, you know where you want to go. You now know how to move forward with some authority because you're using your own intuition. This is how you take control of the process now. This is how you lead your team. If you do wind up using a mediator or attorneys or whatnot, or child psychologists or forensic accountants, the whole, whatever you may need to bring to the table, this is how you manage it instead of being managed by it.
Right.
Too many women go through this and take a poll and get opinions from, of course, the people they hire, the lawyers,
everybody
but
else.
also their friends, their family, anyone who will listen.
Yep.
And it's good to do your research. That's why you need a team. But you have to make the ultimate decision because you know what? You're the one who's going to live with the consequences. Yeah. Everyone else is going home at the end of the day. It's you and your children.
Yep.
So we really empower them to take control.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to this is that, at this time of such great overwhelm, we don't want people to think like, oh God, now I have to take on more work, more of this. But it really, I think, even just listening to Bill recount this, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a pretty good program. It's like, what it really boils down to. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Sign me up. It actually really is about activating your awareness so that you can really be self-reflective, because you are the authority of you. So even when Bill was talking about the divorce declaration, the reason that we help you craft this is because it becomes the funnel for which you run everything through. Is this aligns with my divorce declaration? Nope. Okay. Pivot. And, even in terms of self-care, it's like, what you need. You know what you need. Now, listen, there's nothing wrong. There are those days we're going to curl up on the sofa, put the blanket over our head, and we're going to stay there and binge on Netflix.
Yeah.
And we need those days too.
Yeah.
But we also we know the foods that make us feel good, the movement that makes us feel good, the nature that makes us feel good. And we teach women also how to embroil their kids into this so that even if you say, okay, we are having a crappy day here. What are we going to do to shift it? Dance party. Let's cook together. Let's have a picnic. Let's move. Let's move the energy.
Yeah.
So it really is this awareness of, and even when you said about being the CEO, it's like you take this poll from everyone, but at the end of the day, everybody else going home. They're going back to their lives. You're the one that's going to be stuck with these decisions. So you really want to make sure that you make them with awareness and alignment with who you are, what your heart says. And I think the biggest problem for women is that we just have gotten so far away from just knowing how to trust ourselves.
Totally. 100%.
As the authority, right? So you are the authority for you. So really our job is walking beside women and helping them help themselves, because those are sustainable tools. It's like, that's going to help you get through this divorce. I promise you are going to get through that divorce. You and your kids are going to save time, money, and heartache. And you're going to get to the other side of that divorce intact, making really prudent, succinct decisions. And you're not going to come screeching in on one wheel, a hot mess. And you'll be really thankful.
Yeah.
But it really boils down to just kind of like settling in to yourself. Really. And again, like Bill says, we've got lots of tactics, and tools to help you get there. But these are the same things that translate and can be used throughout life.
Yeah.
That's the really cool thing about it.
For sure.
And kind of the last step there, which kind of ties that together, is to get support, whether it's with us, whether it's with another coach or something. You need somebody who can advocate for you.
Right.
Because a lawyer may be necessary in the process, but they can't help you make your decisions. They can't help you take care of your kids. They can't help you find your power again.
Right.
They have a separate job. No one else can do that. And this is new territory for virtually everybody going through it. And the stakes are enormous. The stakes are huge for you, and there's huge for your kids.
Yeah.
How are you going to wind up financially? How are you going to wind up emotionally? How your kids are going to fare? So get support. Don't go it alone. There's too much on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that notion of kind of like Bill and I were just talking about this, but it's like getting in the gap, right? There's so much that happens between the times you sit down with your lawyer or the times you sit down with your accountant. It's like, who's there to talk to you about all the feelings, all the emotions, all the things, what just happened with my kid, just how did I just got triggered by my ex? It's really about it's like radical self-care, asking for help, not always easy for women, asking for help, looking to be supported and to be held and to be nurtured and to have a safe place to feel. That's an incredible investment. And I just say, like, aren't you worth it?
Yeah.
Aren't you worth it? Like, oh my God, I've spent decades trying to figure this stuff out, like on the job training the hard way. I so wish that I had this information. It would have changed. I made so many mistakes because I did things for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I love everything you're saying about that, because I mean, like you were saying, you're learning all these things that translate to real life. Because I mean, all this, you're talking about awareness and intuition, all this. I mean, as a functional practitioner, this is what I talk to people about with their health. It's the same thing. It's like, there's awareness piece, there's an intuition piece, and only your body, like it's all the same things, but all of the things you're talking about, I mean, really does translate to every aspect of life. Like these are like tools for living and intuitive life.
Well, I mean, your health, your physical body plays such a role in this. What you put into this vessel, this is your car that's driving the whole thing. It's like, and it's, so that's, we are huge proponents of like body, mind, spirit.
Yeah.
That connection and understanding it, and the other thing is, when you ignore the body, when you ignore the soul, the spirit, the intuition, the body barks. The body will come
and yell at you.
Yeah, it will yell at you. It's going to say like, knock, knock, knock. Like, you're not getting off on this one.
Yeah.
And you don't need that on top of everything else. My back went out in my divorce.
Oh my gosh.
Well, of course. That's like, there's so many spiritual associations with lack of support, vulnerability, feeling, afraid of like financial support. So, it's just so amazing when you start making the connections, because you have then a deeper relationship with yourself.
Yep.
That when something happens, you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Stress is, I mean, it's no surprise, but stress is one of the biggest precipitators of ailments, right? And when I was going through divorce, I had issues with skin. I had issues with my gums and teeth. I had issues with joints. I had all kinds of things happening that have just gone away once that stress was ameliorated.
Right. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It really is.
So,
It really is.
and I just want to touch also, Kristen had mentioned that you're worth making the investment in yourself. One thing we find is, like, if you invest in a coach to help you get through this or whatnot, they can save you a huge amount of money in the process, because when you can get clear about what it is you want, you can be much more efficient with your attorneys and the legal process.
Yes.
Much more.
Yep.
I mean, you can save literally tens of thousands of dollars, and you can be much more, well, you can honor what you think is important when it comes to like settlement agreements, and not make concessions because you're being bullied or for the wrong reasons or just to make peace or whatever, that don't serve you in the long run. So
that you're going to regret.
It really does come back.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love that. So I do have another question I want to kind of sum up everything with. But before I ask you that, can you just let everybody know where they can find out more about you and what y'all are doing, how to work with you, if they're going through this, if they have a friend going through this, where can they get all of that information?
Yeah, of course. So our website is bestselfintuitivedivorce.com.
Perfect.
bestselfintuitivedivorce.com. And you can learn more about the program. There's also a link to a free masterclass there where we kind of walk you through the process. And it's not just the process we teach you, but you go through that, you're actually going to be empowered to, in 40 minutes, you're going to go, wow, I'm going to approach my divorce differently, whether we work together or not.
Yeah.
But when you go through that, it's like, if you are aligned, if it resonates with you and you want to go further, there's an opportunity to book a call with us, and then we can see if we're fit to work together.
Perfect.
We also have a blog, a divorce blog, which you'll find there. And every, couple times a week, we're writing new content to help support moms through the process, and a free Facebook group and things like that. So but you can find it all there.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll have notes, links to all that in the show notes. So y'all can go check that out. I can go click around, and I'll give both of y'all a chance because I love everybody's answers. So I want y'all both have a chance to answer. The question I like to ask everybody as we close is, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
To live with purpose.
All right.
You want to go first?
Start.
Do you have an answer?
No.
Sometimes I have a funny relationship with purpose, because I feel like it's a heavy word, like a loaded word, where people are like, I don't know what my purpose is. I'm searching for my purpose.
Yes.
For me, to live with purpose is to be aligned with my intuition, to be aligned with my heart, to be of service, to trust that I'm making a difference here, that it's okay. It's like to love the work that I do. It's okay to be abundant from the work that I do, but the work that I do has purpose, and the work that I do is aligned with my heart. It fills me. Like, I was just crying. We had two people just graduate our class, and I was like, I didn't expect it, but the tears started flowing just because this work fills me. So I think do work that fills you, be of service, and fill yourself.
Yeah.
Leave the planet a better place than it was yesterday. That to me is purpose.
That's perfect. I love it.
And purpose doesn't mean go quit your job and live on a farm or start, some radical new business or something. Although that's
unless you want
totally
to.
fine.
Exactly.
But you can find purpose, even if your job, for example, is not so fulfilling. You can find purpose in how that's allowing you to, whatever it is, have more time with your family, which is purposeful for you as a parent or whatever. But the bottom line is to understand that I think we all have purpose, not to get too wrapped up in how you define it, like, oh, my purpose is to save the planet, or my purpose is to end hunger, whatever, that there is a purpose within all of us, right? And so what is that for you? And then that you are worthy of honoring that. And you'll never experience the full joy of life if you don't honor it. Or maybe another way to reframe that is the joy of life will be so much greater when you do honor it.
Yeah.
And I think also that purpose can change. Follow the joy.
That's true.
Follow the yeses. Follow the things that give you little butterflies and give you little goosebumps and more of that.
Yeah.
More of that. And that only comes when you are aligned with your intuition, when you are aligned with your heart, and you really care about, like, there's like a greater good.
I love it. Such good answers. Thank you all so much. Yeah, great answers.
It was wonderful talking to you.
Yes, it was so great having y'all on. And I'm so grateful for the work y'all are doing and for the lives that you're changing and just like helping people. So you're helping people live more purposeful lives. So thank you for the work you're doing and for sharing some of that with us today.
And right back at you. Thank you for your beautiful light in the world.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Hope.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I know how I can provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics that you want to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza or visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.